bringing in genetic genealogist CeCe Moore on this. CeCe, thank you so much for being here. And you've said that this tool can step in and be successful when all other leads seemingly are exhausted. Does this essentially look like approaching a 23andMe or an Ancestry.com style database, a large commercial one, and then seeing if there are any family matches to this unknown DNA?
Well, as long as you have a viable DNA sample that you can create one that is workable for genetic genealogy from that, then it is eventually solvable. That person can be identified. Of course, there's a lot of caveats right now. Do they actually have the suspect's DNA or not? So that's a big if. As far as the databases, although there are over 50 million people who have taken direct consumer DNA tests, law enforcement is actually barred from the vast majority of those profiles. The three largest databases have said law enforcement cannot compare against their databases. So we are actually limited to the three smallest databases, GEDmatch, Family Tree DNA, and DNA Justice, with under 2 million profiles to compare against on violent criminal cases like this one. So it can be very difficult. If they were able to get the DNA in those large databases with 25 million people, 12 million people, and so on, then it could be a very, very quick identification. Yeah. In GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA, sometimes we get lucky quick, but it can also take a very long time.
I'm so glad you brought up that point, because most of the major firms that use genetic genealogy, the Ancestry, the 23andMe, MyHeritage, they do have those policies to not work with law enforcement. However, some will change that when asked if it's a violent criminal or to identify human remains. With the amount of scrutiny and public pressure on this case, do you believe that any of these databases stand a really good chance of reversing course on what seems like a pretty hard and fast rule and actually opening up their databases to solve this case?
It's never happened to date. And there's also misconceptions about that. It has not happened. I went to these companies back in 2012 and MyHeritage in 2016, asking if they would be willing to have law enforcement samples in their database. And they schooled me very quickly and very assertively about why they did not want that to happen. They don't want to scare off the public. They don't want to scare off their customers. Now that they have amassed these huge databases, they want to protect their customers' privacy. So we can all understand that. However, if a warrant is served on these companies, which I believe it will be either in this case or another case in, very soon, they're going to have a knockdown, drag out fight. I don't think these companies will just fold and agree. I think that they will go into their deep pockets and put up a fight to protect their customers' privacy. One thing, though, I wish they would consider is that the vast majority of their customers think law enforcement is already using those databases. It's one of the biggest misconceptions out there. And one of the reasons I've done so many interviews is I'm trying to let people know if they want to help on cases like Nancy's, they need to download their raw data from those big companies and get them in one of the databases that we can actually access. If those big companies would create a system like GEDmatch has, where you can opt in or opt out, that would really be, I think, the best middle ground. I think law enforcement would be happy to adhere to that, and we would be able to solve cases very, very quickly. And then they wouldn't have to serve a warrant.
That's just such an interesting point. And I mean, in this case in particular, public sentiment so on this side. If they were going to make an exception for any case, you would think it would be this one. You say there are also limitations to genetic genealogy. So you would hope that the suspect, for example, has deep roots in this country, is not an immigrant, their parents are not immigrants, ideally of Northwestern European ancestry. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, those are the people that are best represented in all genetic genealogy databases. But when you're limited to the smallest ones, it's even more important. It's people who have deep roots in the United States that we are able to most quickly identify through investigative genetic genealogy. People that we can follow that paper trail all the way back to the 1600s, for example. And those are the people that have the most cousins in the database, right? Because their ancestors have been here for hundreds of years. So we're going to find a lot more of those second, third, fourth, fifth cousins and beyond than somebody who was born in another country country, even all the way back to their great-grandparents.
Yeah, very quickly, and we're almost out of time. So if that theory of any cartel involvement, whether this suspect could have taken Nancy past the border to Mexico, would that potentially make using genetic genealogy more challenging as a tool in this case?
Absolutely, but it's still doable. It just will take more time and more resources, and that might be when they go ahead and serve that warrant on those big databases, if that were to happen.
Genetic genealogist CeCe Moore, really appreciate the insight and time. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.